the Man Space Podcast. Take it away, fellas.
Thank you, voice girl, and welcome to another edition of the Man Space Podcast. Now, this is the voice of Russ, and you are tuning into a special bonus edition of the Man Space Podcast. I'm not going to be alone. I have special guests that are going to be joining me on this journey. So during this month of December, we are going to be dropping bonus episodes as our gift to the Man Space Nation. So without further ado, let me introduce my guest today, because his life reads like a masterclass in leadership, resilience, and purpose. He is a professional speaker, mindset trainer, executive coach, author, podcaster based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He is a man on a mission to help overwhelmed professionals break free from limiting beliefs and step boldly into the life God designed for them. Throughout his journey, it reads like a chapter book, one that has remained constant: his passion for helping people transform their lives. Today, he's guiding leaders toward faith, purpose, confidence, and hope, unlocking the potential inside of them and ready to lead their best lives. Man Space Nation, please put it together for my guest today, Mr. Ryan Reichert.
Hey, thanks, Russ. Wow. Yeah, you're too kind with those opening remarks there. But no, greatly appreciate it. And the Man Space Nation out there, and knowing that this is a special one that Les can't be here, but thank you, Les, for all your hard work that you and Russ put together for this. So yeah, just blessed to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for being part of the show and taking up on the invitation to be a part. Right off the bat, just share a little bit about yourself to the Man Space Nation, because I want them to get to know you and who you are as a person.
Yeah, I mean, I always start with growing up in a small rural town. It was Hoople, North Dakota, Tatertown, USA, about 350 people in its heyday. And I was, born. We had a professional side. My dad was an entrepreneur. Him and his father had Reichert Insurance, a little independent insurance agency. My mother was a school teacher. She was actually my 8th grade reading teacher, and she did special education, visually impaired, and so forth throughout the rest of her 40 plus years of teaching. And growing up, little house on the prairie and so forth. It kind of transitioned into going to the University of North Dakota. There, I got an ROTC scholarship, and in 2002, I was commissioned into the Army as a second lieutenant in the infantry. And I did that for 20 plus years and retired in 2022. Through all that, got to do all the cool things like airborne and ranger, and spent about 4 years in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. And so not that cool, I guess, when it's a little warm in the summers there. But transitioned into Fortune 500 America, where I did a few years of risk management and developing some amazing tools in Fortune 500. And then was laid off in, just last year. So the 2024 July-ish time. And while all that, I was fast forwarding over a really bumpy road of addiction and so forth, a lot of loss, went through divorce, and my 2 adult children today, 2 beautiful, independent young women, kind of telling me that, I was a mess, and I certainly was. So they said, when you get it all figured out, maybe we'll come back into your life. And through some of those struggles, I started Our Protector LLC, which has turned into Our Protector Legendary Leadership Companies. The motto of North Dakota is legendary. So I figured if you take God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, a boy from a small town in North Dakota, you say you're going to start a business. Well, I co-founded it with our maker, and he said, I'll help you write some books. You'll develop a course. You'll start teaching 6th grade boys at church, because that's how old I was when I started drinking, unfortunately. And you're going to just keep trying to make this world a better place, only through your brokenness, because that's how everyone out there that's going through the same things that you once did, you can relate to them. You know exactly how hard it is to recover through some of those losses. But the amazing thing about it is, and I'm a huge Rocky fan, love Sylvester Stallone. I think of Mickey, and I can't remember I know the last clip I saw was in like Rocky 5 when he was reminiscing about Mickey, kind of like going through the motions, learning, and he's like, he's talking. He's like, you're going to have that angel. That angel is going to whisper in your ear, "Get up, you son of a bitch, because Mickey loves you." And that to me, it's pretty amazing. I know this airs in December as a special episode, right? So everyone listening hear this right now, it's December, but it might just be the 26th of November as we shoot this. And it's tonight at 5 p.m. It'll be 2 years since my last drink, God willing, we make it to 5 o'clock. Yeah, amen. Thank you. And so that dynamic is that little angel was when I went to my first AA meeting, it was Mickey. He was right there. You get up, you son of a bitch, because Mickey loves you. And yeah, I mean, that's been my mantra, along with many others, the last 2 years, is just every day, being grateful for being able to get back up, put the work in, helping, just the person next to you, doing the next right best thing. That to me, like, is just, I just think how we met, and like, you're like, hey, we're booked out for months, but I'm going to do some special episodes. And I was like, oh, awesome. And this is such a blessing. And so thank you so very much.
You're most welcome. So I have to ask you, which one of the Rocky movies is your favorite?
Oh, it's easy. It's Rocky 4, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yes,
I don't know if
absolutely.
It was because where I would have, age-wise and everything else, and obviously the Cold War. Plus, I don't know. It's just it was. They're all good, but yeah, if I could only pick one, that'd be the one I'd go to every day of the week.
Yeah.
Maybe it was growing up and just thinking about the snow that we just got here, and I'm thinking of him training and trudging through the snow and everything else. And it's that perseverance of, like, if anybody out there listening's, struggling, just know that you're going through it because, like, you're that tough. Like, you can persevere through any of it. And that's the dynamics of it. And thinking of Ivan Drago and, the Soviet Union, Iron Curtain, and it's like, they're unbeatable, undefeated, all these things, right? Like, and you're like, well, let's just say that there's a little guy from Philadelphia that's got a whole lot more inside him that you even know. So
that's right. Absolutely. So we are a nation that's built on second chances. We love the comeback story. You look at Iron Man, for example. I don't know why I just went blank on his name. But you look at his story and his comeback, and you and your recovery and everything, and just hands off, just applause for 2 years of being sober. But when it comes to second chances, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's I think I always just think about perspective versus perception. And what I want to go here with have a little fun day Sunday educational of, like, when we perceive something to be a certain way, like my dad's visiting, and he's been sober for 40 years, over 40 years, Vietnam veteran. And the dynamics of, like, for me, I didn't want to be like my father. I saw the darkness in it, not realizing that it was going to be the greatest light for me.
Right.
And that's that shift to perspective and understanding that you can have a completely different look on something and realize, though, that you're probably missing the mark. And what I mean by that is, like, not realizing today that I love the label of being called an alcoholic and an addict. It's my superpower. Like, it's one of those things that I know where my kryptonite is. It's only but a symptom, so like Superman, like that dynamic, you could be like Batman instead, because kryptonite doesn't mess with Batman. And so those are the things of understanding between how you perceive what things are versus, like, the perspective to shift how we look at every single thing. And when we really think about second chances, comebacks, you think of, like, I think of Rudy, like Rudy Rudiger, and so forth. And, somebody that you talk about, an underdog there from that side of it. Well, I was the underdog, kind of my entire life. Growing up, we were in a Protestant community as the Catholic family, like
Right.
one of a handful. And people are like, I don't understand, like Christians and all. And it was like, we thought we were the big C as Catholics, kind of
Right.
thing.
Right.
But we
Right.
didn't have numbers. And then you have the dynamic of, little C, everybody else. And, like, let's flip that the opposite way. We had it all wrong the whole time, perception versus perspective. And
Right.
and then, my dad not being the farmer, the community, it's a farming community. Hello, Tatertown, USA. But he was the one that was the entrepreneurship, his father building Reichert's insurance, and him, coming back after Vietnam to help his father out with the business with some health issues at the time. Those things, to me, like, no one sees that shift. I think of all the time, and I date myself once again, over the top, Sylvester Stallone, one more time. And remember how he'd take his ball cap or whatever, and he'd flip that thing around. And he's like, I'm like the truck. It's like turning on a switch. And, he was just taking every dude down left and right. And that to me is for all of us when we're kind of in that valley, is figuring out, like, how do we flip that switch? How do we change how we've seen everything our entire life? If you got that chip on your shoulder, you're always thinking that something's Good education there, that North Dakota public education. Everything's dark, and you got to shine some light. And so for me today, it's like when I teach focus, it's faith, opportunity, consistency, unconditional kindness, and the standard. And basically, when I was, 2 years and a day ago, I didn't have faith. So like I'd have to start at the other side of it. And that's what it became. It was the standard first was like, well, hey, I just got to get out of bed in the morning, like that's a win, But before I get out of bed, I got to be grateful that I get to wake up another day. I got to be grateful that I have, a roof over my head. I'm warm, dry, and safe. I ate yesterday, so I know that I can go all the way through today not eating, and I'm fine. I can go 40 days without eating. Drinking water is a different story. So, like, I'm grateful that I got water. And you just start to realize that creates this unconditional kindness to start to see that you're grateful for everything around you. You actually start to become grateful for all the people that are still in your life, because there's going to be a couple people. And if there's not, like, you got Jesus Christ, if there's one thing I would tell my younger self, it's like, Ryan, here's a Bible. You're going to read this every day because your best friend wrote it. You want to get to know him. And once you do, you'll realize that your best friend's always with you. And the amount of light that brings into your life when everything's dark, you've lost the job, the 25-year marriage just went, up in smoke, your two beautiful children that you love so much, wouldn't do anything for, but you messed up, you got, smearing garbage everywhere you go, aren't in your life. Like, it starts, opening your heart up, the cracks, that realize that the light that he puts inside of you can rebuild that stony, broken heart of yours, like, into a fleshy one that can love again, that can have emotions of, caring for others, and really experience that joy that we all yearn for. But it takes some work. It takes some reflection. That's for sure.
Yeah. I always look at perspective as your perspective is only as good as the angle that you're looking at it from.
Oh, I love that. Hold on. Let me write that one down real quick.
Because, we all can see, one thing. I was watching a football game, and it clearly looked like this guy was down. And I'm like, he's down. What are you doing? He's down. He didn't fumble the ball. He's down. But from the angle I looked at it at, it looked like he had touched the ground. The ball hadn't come out yet. Well, when you look at it from a different angle, that ball was out.
Yeah.
He hadn't touched the ground yet. It's all about the angle that you look at it from.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about it like it's how we did some research, first book, it's definitely in, and it's, National Society of, thought, basically, at the end of the day. But we have anywhere from 12 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% are negative and 95% are repetitive. And basically what that means is everyone's like, well, think positive, think positive, think positive. It
Mhm.
doesn't work. Like, you know, if we're already at
Yeah.
80% negative, we have to think less negative to create more positive just by just
Mhm.
having less negative. And in that dynamic, just like you're saying, for me, it was always, you know, my retrospection of how I believed the past was. And
Yeah.
then my introspection, I'd always kind of like start to internalize it. And that inner monologue, no one's telling
Yeah.
you that like you're not good enough,
Mhm.
not smart enough, like you're not
Of
good looking
course.
enough, like all these things, right? Hey, you said Dirk instead of dark earlier in the podcast. How
What a
everyone's gonna
loser.
laugh at
Come
you.
on.
Yeah. And I'm like, please today give me some negative, because like I realize I know how to work it in such a way that I don't have all that other negative filtering in. I've had the ability, meditation and mindset are such a huge thing today. And I think back,
Mhm.
when I went through Ranger school, granted, continue to date ourselves in the early 2000s here, but it's a 61-day school where, they strip you down to nothing. And,
Yeah.
you have to learn that, you get to eat once a day. Say you're burning 6,500 calories, you're only going to be taking in a couple thousand. And, you're not going to get to sleep, but, an hour or two here and there. And those dynamics just grinding you down to refine the common denominator and everything.
Right.
And what you realize, that common denominator is your brother and now sister, I guess, but brother and sister to your left and right. And that in its simplest form creates what we specifically need to move forward, today. Just take one step. You only have to be 1% better today. And by the end of the year, so 365 days later, you're 37% more successful than if you stayed at 0%. So, I always say, I didn't realize, I took this one for granted. I wasn't somebody who liked to wash clothes or clean toilets kind of thing. And unfortunately, go through a divorce, you find yourself all by yourself, and you might be cleaning some toilets and washing some clothes. So Michelle, if you ever hear this, thank you. I did greatly appreciate that. And I did take that for granted. But understanding that maybe if you let it pile up, just clean like the inside of the toilet one day kind of
Right.
thing, you don't, or like, hey, you got 5 loads of laundry to wash. Like, how about you just wash one, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I've learned that my laundry might go into the washing machine and into the dryer and stay in the dryer for a couple days. You know what I mean? Just because even myself, as people, are like, oh, Ryan's got it all figured out. He's got all those accolades. He's doing all these things today. That doesn't mean I still don't have moments where I don't want to do, right?
Right.
What did I say? I don't want to do, but like I get to do it. I'm alive today.
Yeah.
So like,
that's right.
Let's just do that one load, and tomorrow we do another load. Like it's all good. It's just doing that 1% to get a little bit better. I certainly, I don't know now, probably maybe 75 podcasts between, my podcast that I co-host and hop on ones like yours. But if you watch those first, 7.5, kind of the first 10%, I bet you they're pretty not that great. Ryan's probably scared, has no idea that you got to have these lights on and stuff. Everything else. And you realize that everything's going to be okay, and you're just there to show people that you can get back up again. And it's not perfect. I think of imperfect today. And what is it? How do you spell imperfect? I am perfect. So, in our imperfections, we're perfect. So don't worry about, how it looks, how it seems. It's going to work out for all of us.
Yeah. What was that defining moment for you that just said, I need to start over? Because I've been asking that of so many people, and I hear their stories and their journey is like, yeah, man, I went through this and this was that moment. But what was that crystallizing moment for you that just said, enough's enough, I need to change?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting reflecting on it today, because it was about 17 months after I'd retired from the Army, and I've been doing the same thing for 23 years. And you go like how fast it unraveled. And it's the rituals that, get up 4:00 in the morning, get to work, read emails, like get ahead of the game, try to get ahead of your boss, have a meeting with the boys, go out, salute the flag, work out, and have breakfast with everybody, and then work. And it, I had this cause, I had this great purpose, service, today realizing that everything we do, is for service, whatever it looks like. And everybody is serving at the end of the day. Like you're serving, like, the Man Space Nation kind of thing. So then allows me to hop on and so on and so forth. So through your service, like we have this discussion. And don't worry, I'll land the plane. I always got to like try to set it up in such a way though, that it works in this crazy mind up here. But the dynamic of like, I was just so sick and tired. I had no purpose. I was working a job that, I was getting paid, making 3 times what I was making in the Army, and retiring as lieutenant colonel, I was still making great money. And thank you for all those. Even myself paying taxes, make sure I was getting paid. So it's great. But yeah, all of a sudden you got financially, anyways, you got everything. But I was just living a lie. I was like trying to, be a people pleaser. We had season tickets for hockey, and it's like, who can we invite that, blah, 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 blah. And let me buy them drinks and dinner and yada, 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 yada. I want everybody to like me, and, unfortunately, my former spouse, like, her and I were growing apart through it all, because we probably each materialistically had what we always maybe dreamed of, big fancy house, a swimming pool and the boat in the lake and going on trips. And so like, we're good, but I was like running with the boys and being a, college rugby player again, thinking you could, that rock and roll lifestyle. Unfortunately, I didn't realize I still had little eyes at home and they're watching, kind of thing.
Right.
What type of example was I being for my girls? And, sure, they probably saw me as this, hero, wears a cape and serves his country. And, actually they had no idea what I did, really. They just know I was dad. And, I played with them, and we had fun memories and so forth together. But it was really interesting. I hadn't gone deer hunting in 20 years, kind of thing, and I was up deer hunting northern Minnesota, and it was unreal. Like we're party hunting, group hunting, so like you can as many tags you have, you fill. And I happen, I guess, to still know how to use a rifle, and I was lucky enough. I got to shoot 3 deer. And it opened up this pride, ego inside of me that I think had been dormant since I left the military. And this is where I'm not proud of these stories at this moment, but I got on Match.com and I started to like hunt for other women, unfortunately. And I did not have the strength to tell my spouse at the time that it was over and this is what I'm doing, because it was easier to hide, it was easier to run. It was easier to lie. And what I didn't realize is, fast forward a couple weeks into it, she would open the garage door and I was standing there talking to somebody else, talking to another woman. She's like, who are you talking to? And for the first time in my life, I told the truth. And obviously she slammed the door, and not realizing that her youngest daughter was not that far away. Heard basically everything that was going on. And, a couple of days later, I found myself in my first AA meeting, and it was from there. We separated. The divorce process started. And then we got divorced last year, and so on and so forth. But it was just I was done running. I was just exhausted from running. Just the amount of like, I didn't realize how much energy it took to continue to try to keep up with the lies. And what had I been telling myself? What had I been telling others? I wasn't the guy who, all those years in uniform, was looking good on the outside and completely broken on the inside. I was a scared 6-year-old little boy that got left behind in an alleyway, 40 years ago. And I didn't realize the whole time that I was searching for my father, and he'd been standing in the same spot for 45 plus years. And that to me is where, today, it sounds crazy. I probably sound like just like insane.
No.
But what I love about it is it's not, because I can see the movements and everything now that I do, and how the stars align, and how like we find each other through
Mm-hmm.
pod match, kind of thing. I
Yeah.
laugh, like I was on match.com 2 years ago, like
Mm-hmm.
trying to find other women. Now I'm on
Mm-hmm.
pod match, trying to find podcasts to tell my
Yeah.
story, and to share that there's hope. I have faith, hope, and love tattooed on the inside of my arm.
Mm-hmm.
Something my mother still this day, I always hear, anytime I'm talking to her on the phone, but let alone like,
Yeah.
some things you keep, maybe a card
Yeah.
or birthday, and she always wrote faith, hope, and love. And
Yeah.
we don't realize that little bit of faith creates the hope necessary to give the love
Mm-hmm.
that we never knew we truly needed. And
Yeah.
I today is in everybody. Like I said, like for us,
Mm-hmm.
the brotherhood that we share that we never even knew.
Yeah.
And it's just like only the
That's right.
second time we've ever had conversations, but it's like we've known each other forever, because it's when everything is linked and synchronized,
Mm-hmm.
and in his divine timing,
Yeah.
we know that it's all going to be okay. But when we force it, when we try to
Mm-hmm.
control everything, it's a mess. And then
Yeah.
we have all these feelings that create emotions that, we're angry, we're mad, glad, sad,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and, for me, it was, unfortunate that I, had a prescription drug problem, so if I got pain in
Mm-hmm.
my body, I would, abuse my prescription drugs that I was on. And then
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, to wash them down, it was always beer or bourbon. And you do that too often in the same 24-hour period, you're a train wreck. And then you just,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
compounding effect. And I
Yeah.
always laughed in the beginning. I tell people, I was a functioning alcoholic. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess the best I could do was say that definition looked like I was able to, keep a multi 6-figure job while paying to blind everyone's sight of
Mm-hmm.
me, because like I would just keep stuffing those
Yeah.
emotions. Well, actually, I'd stuff the feelings down so I wouldn't have to feel. The problem was the emotions that came from trying to hold all that in was just
Mm-hmm.
what did it look like? Rage,
Yeah.
anger. I was always looking to get in a fight, with somebody. And now today, I'm just like, golly, like I didn't go deer hunting this year because like I don't want to harm anything anymore.
Right.
So isn't that
Right.
wild to think that? I mean, just I was telling a buddy that last Friday night we were out eating dinner, and I was like, hey man, like can't believe it. Like this year I didn't go deer hunting because like I don't want to hurt anybody anymore because I hurt
Yeah.
so many people and so many things. And he's like, but they taste so good. I was like, well, good point. Like, once you get your deer processed, I certainly will
Right.
raise my right hand for some deer jerky. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting to think how we ebb and we flow. We certainly
Right.
grow. And that's one of my mantras today. It's growth over comfort, realizing
Mm-hmm.
that I would much rather be uncomfortable and grow
Mm-hmm.
than, continue to, try to numb myself with things that,
Mm-hmm.
Made me comfortable at the time. And, yeah, it's just,
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't understand the life that military soldiers go through. And this is in all branches, enlisted, non-enlisted. Um, the we all have a regiment that we're trained. You're told that you got to be here at a certain time. You're told when to eat. You told when you go to sleep. You know what you're going to wear 5 days out of the week.
right.
You know,
Yep.
and so you have this routine, and I didn't do it nearly as long as you did, but for that period of time, you know exactly what you're doing every single day, and when you get out the military, you're kind of searching for that routine still, and not having all of that. It opens doors, and it opens a lot of times negative vices for a lot of military people. I remember I was at Fort Hood, and I remember a guy that was getting out, and he left, and about a month later, I'm standing in first formation, and I look over, and there he is again. He he got out. He couldn't handle it on the outside, and came back and ended up right back in the same unit. I mean, it's tough on the outside for a lot of people to make that transition.
Yeah.
How much do you feel that the military life led to a lot of, or compounded onto what you were going through?
Yeah, I would say compounded is definitely,
Mhm.
thinking about the dynamics of, like work hard, play harder. It's
Yeah.
certainly not saying that the other, branches within the army didn't have like, let's work hard, play harder. But like, in the
Mhm.
infantry, it was like, we're the tip of the spear. Let's,
Yeah.
like do this, and this. And then it's like, well, we got to celebrate. And for me,
Mhm.
it wasn't just like, let's celebrate, like coming back from a deployment. It turned into like, it's Monday, let's celebrate. Hey, it's Tuesday,
Yeah.
let's celebrate. Like every day became a celebration. Every
Mhm.
interaction, like was like, hey, let's celebrate. And what that means, instead of like being like, rah, 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 good job, let's
Right.
all like whatever. It was like, let's go get sideways and
Yeah.
let's see how fast we can do that. And I think of was it Talladega Nights, with Will Ferrell. And
Yeah. Love
if you're
that
not
movie.
first, you're last.
That's right.
Absolutely. But the other dynamic is like you can't see the invisible flames, right? Like, and you're on
Mhm.
fire, like you're burning up inside,
Yeah.
and you're trying to extinguish it with whatever whatever your poison is. And I think for me, I wasn't a blackout drunk, unless I,
Mhm.
was like finishing people's vodka drinks. I was a bourbon
Yeah.
and beer guy. So for me, for some weird reason, like switch to bourbon and stimulate you, and it's like sweet.
Mhm.
Like it was always a measuring contest, and I won't use the
Yeah.
4-letter word that I was trying to measure, but what does it mean then? Oh, good job. Like you can drink the most, good
Right.
for you. Like that's a proud trophy to have.
Right.
And it's that bravado. I mean, it was, thinking back to high school, like, you
Mhm.
got to be the captain of every sport that you're on. Like, you
Right.
got to be,
Right.
I'm in charge. Well, okay, great. You're in charge. Like, what type of example are you leading?
Mhm.
I'm just thinking back to when I was a company commander, and what type of example was I for all my lieutenants, at the time? And I'm
Right.
so grateful to see them today as they're like battalion commanders. It's
Yeah.
so amazing, and go like, well, hey, maybe I was a good enough example to like, don't be me, maybe, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't be
Yeah.
that guy, and use me, like my dad would always say, use me as a good example or a bad example, but just realize that there's a lesson in it. And
Mhm.
so,
I
uh,
like that.
yeah, that to me was one that, obviously I can still remember. And maybe he's been, in my life, certainly a lot more the last couple of years. Is, the first year, there was a lot of I had a lot of anger and resentment to go through. I think he did too, like in life, just
Yeah.
knowing where he had been, and things that he'd been through. He's a Vietnam veteran, and so like,
Mhm.
he never was welcomed home.
Yeah.
And I just can't even fathom having to go through that, because for
Yeah.
us, like, we were welcome home. I remember going through the Dallas Fort Worth airport, and people
Right.
lined up just
That's what I'm
like all the
plotting.
way to
Yeah.
your next flight, and like to
Mhm.
have that much support. I can't fathom,
That's
going
right.
and fighting for, our nation. He had a saying he'd tell me. He had on like a Zippo lighter, and he said it said on it, "Freedom has a taste the protected will never know." And it didn't take me long to realize that. After I went to Afghanistan, coming back, and then every deployment after that, I really struggled for about a year after I'd come back from a deployment, going like, man, I'm volunteering for this, and to serve so we all have freedom. And this is how y'all treat the greatest nation under the stars.
Yeah.
This is, like there's sons and daughters, there's men and women,
Right.
there's brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers going out and doing what they do
Yeah.
for all of us to have freedom. And I think about that today now with like, police officers, firefighters, EMTs, like
Right.
everybody like today. And it's certainly not lost on me, like what
Mhm.
they're doing for all of us to be protected, here in the greatest nation with the freedom that's provided. And
Right.
we're out there just running rampant on the streets.
That's right.
I don't
Mhm.
get it. It doesn't make sense at all.
It I agree wholeheartedly with you. I I was thinking briefly. I was at Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty, Fort Bragg again. I don't know where it is now, but there was a article that was written around the time that I was there about the most physically fit drunks.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause we set a record during the 4th of July weekend for the most alcohol purchased over a weekend at one location. And it was constantly a daily thing, and just having to the military is its own world, and a lot of people are sitting there on the outside looking in because they're waiting to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
You had a lot of people with the predatory loans. You had
Yeah.
the women sitting out there, they know when you get paid,
Right.
so they're waiting on you,
Yeah.
and it's just so much. And so to get away from that and kind of reestablish was one of the biggest things for me. Um, I look at it. I'm like you. I'm an army brat as well, right? So my father went through it. He's also a Vietnam veteran. So when I got out, my father had just passed
Hmm.
around the time that I got out the military, and um, I went home to my mom, and it was just having that support because she lived it through my dad and understanding. So I had her to lean on to help me adjust
Right.
and then help me to reestablish my life. But when you started to make that transition, who was the person that you had to lean on? Because even you found God as your brother, your guide, right?
Yeah.
But there had to been somebody that sat there and said, "Hey, I got a book for you to read." Who is that person that guided you?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Like as you go through, you know, having like I went through AA, for me, right?
Mhm,
So like I didn't go to treatment, so
mhm,
I came off the street, went to a meeting. Just so happens that, you know, they're also known as the God Squad, kind of
yeah,
thing, which is super cool because it's not always the case in AA that you're going to go somewhere and, it's a higher power. Even though the blue book, the big book talks about,
yeah,
obviously God, it's still most folks, like I said before with focus, you start with, let's call it a higher power. Let's call it the
yeah,
doorknob. Let's call it something. And so for me, it was
mhm,
my sponsor. And like it's kind of funny, like it's like getting paired up with your ranger buddy in ranger school when
yeah,
I think about it, right? Because you're like, man, I hope this dude knows how to do everything that I don't know, because like we're gonna definitely need each other to get through this. And I'm like, he's got to be going through a divorce or been divorced kind of thing,
yeah,
because like I can't handle the shame of like, a guy that's still married, blah, 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 blah.
right,
And it's funny because it's not like I was picking, it's not like I was in control. Like, he's like, you got a sponsor yet? And I was like,
yeah,
4 days into sobriety. And I was like,
yeah,
no. And he's like, well, good, you do now. And I was like, okay, sounds good to me.
yeah,
And like match made in heaven, right? Like, so the dynamic of having somebody to call you on your BS, when you, especially the first,
mhm,
12, 18 months of things, thinking you got it all figured out.
yeah,
I read the blue book, look at that. Look at all my
mhm,
little tick marks from every meeting I've been to.
right,
And that pride and ego is still, forefront, frontal lobe kind of thing.
mhm,
And you realize that you're going to go through a lot of stuff. You're going to, a lot of peaks, a lot of valleys. And that's the whole thing for all of us in life, not just those of us that can say, I'm a grateful alcoholic today,
yeah,
and it's making sure that it's just this, it's like, oh, I got a flat tire. No big deal. I broke a bunch of eggs. No big deal. And he's like, I can
right,
clean it up. I can do 2 loads of laundry today. Like I'll take it out of the dryer right away after I hear the first beep. And
mhm,
that's the kind of stuff where, just like in the military, we have a battle buddy. I've always told the girls,
yeah,
anywhere you go in this world, you have a battle buddy. I don't care who they are, but you got
mhm,
somebody to watch your six. And it works out pretty well when we do. And, having that ability to talk to another human being, and then you do start getting strong enough to where like you're okay to be alone. Like
yeah,
I relish my serenity and my alone time today. I mean, yeah, I got a 3-year-old golden doodle that keeps me company all the time. May. She's amazing. She's definitely one of my guardian angels that got me through the first number of months when I did not want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty special how it can work out, because when I think about it, she let's see, it was November, so it was September, 2 months before, like, I got the greatest gift ever. But she had eaten, we had a big long rope toy kind of thing, and she had like chewed on it and whatever, and it got in her stomach and messed up her intestines, and she was going to die basically. And we I think Michelle caught it, and we brought her, I got her into emergency surgery, and it was like a lot of money. I mean, and I'm like, I don't know, like, she worth that? It's my youngest daughter's dog, and we had another older golden doodle, and but at the time I was like, you know what, 1,000%, for whatever reason, right? But normally I was kind of like, I'd be like, no, we can, like, let's medicate her and let's put her to sleep, kind of thing. And not realizing, fast forward like 60 days and then 6 months into that, but like, she'd be the one that like saved me the whole, through it all, like, being like, all right, dude, let's go for a walk, like, hey, you got to feed me, hey, like, I'm going to absorb a lot of this negative energy you're pumping out right now. And that's crazy, because today I can see when she spends time with other people that are kind of, not trudging that road to happy destiny, where they got a lot in their rucksack or their bag, and, say she spends a couple days with them. Yeah, she's a mess. Like, she's absorbing all that toxic negative energy they got. And, she's barking, she's, getting into trouble. She's doing all these things. And it's the same thing for us, is realizing the circles that we have to start running in. Like, I don't have no one's left on my jump roster anymore. The old crew, I'm sorry, I got to leave you in yesterday, because as I started to level up, I started to realize, it's like you outgrow each of those circles, and it's nothing against them. I'm glad other people still love you. Unfortunately, I can love you. I just got to love you from a long ways away. And that's just how it is. That's how it goes. And, I'm saying today, you show me your circles and I'll show you your level of success. And, a lot of folks are like, well, I make good money. It doesn't, I'm like, dude, it ain't about the money, man. Like, it's
not about the money.
How's your peace? How's your joy? Are you able to sit all alone, all by yourself, and not have to, like, who's you on your speed dial? Because, like, you got to get out of your own head. You got to get out of your own thoughts, and you got to, I always call it now, like, being a clown or an actor, where you had your 3 buddies you'd always call and be like, yeah, you can't believe this, Mr. Boss so-and-so, such an a-hole, like, he did this. And today I'd be like, he held you accountable for a task that you're supposed to get done yesterday? I'm confused. Like, what's going on? Well, we had to go to the hockey game, on Monday night, and we got all, ripped up, and, kicked the dog on the way home, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, when do we grow up? Like, when do we really grow up? So.
For listeners that are in the Man Space Nation that may be going through or have gone through, what do you feel are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about men who need to reinvent themselves?
Yeah, I'd say the first thing is tell the truth and ask for help. I love it. When I was going through it, I think I transitioned to like my 3rd director in a couple years, kind of thing, and I'd been running the program the whole time. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, 3rd one, no big deal. And I'm going through the divorce, I just sobered up, and I'm like, you know what? Like, what do you do? I say, hey, office hours are X. Like, I got something I got to tell you. And, it's like, hey, I'm going through some stuff right now. Not looking for, I just want you to know that this is what's happening, and it was amazing, because they were like, oh my goodness, my sister's going through that right now. Like, and it's terrible. And I was like, wow, what happens when you tell the truth and you're not really asking for help, but you're just talking about it, just like we're doing right. Like to me right now, for everybody listening, like therapeutic or whatever it looks like, it's being able to tell my story and continue to tell my story. I mean, I think that's what helped me so much. Like just being able to naturally talk now. It's like, I went to 90 AA meetings in 90 days. I haven't counted, over the last 730 days, how many meetings I've gone to, but I know it's more than 90 because I did 90 in the first 90 days. And just knowing the compounding effect of like getting rid of those demons that you've been carrying around, I mean, I bet you can still remember how you packed your rucksack, right? Like back in the day, like it's one of those, there's like wet weather top on the right-hand side, wet weather bottom on the left-hand side, poncho in the top, like map flap or whatever, you got one pair of BDUs on this, like, two pairs, like all the different dynamics. And that's just what it becomes as we go through all this, is talk about it, create the routine that allows you to get, I call them your 3 daily wins. And it's a physical win. So today, 2 years into this is what it looks like. It's 3 hours, in the morning. Normally it's about 5 to 8, May gets a walk before that. And, I turn on the Kardashians for her, kind of thing. Cause that's the first thing that pops up. I got a buddy that teases me every time I say that. He's like, good cover up. And I'm like, whatever.
Blame the dog.
Samsung TV, whatever. Yeah. And so you basically, I get my physical win. You think 2 years ago I was putting in 3 hours, like trying to get like 8-9 miles in on the treadmill plus working out? No, it might have looked like, 8 or 9 minutes, like, walking May around the apartment so she could pee and poop in the morning. That was the physical win. Check. 2 years later, it looks a little different. Your mental win was just me reading a step in the big book or a story in the big book 2 years ago. Today, it looks like, I read my Bible. I read probably 5 books, and I, am writing what will be like the 5th and 6th books in a series of many series, right? That didn't happen 2 years ago. Like I said, it was like going to a meeting, putting the date down, the group that I was with, the step that we were talking about or the topic we were talking about, and just listening to what people had to say, kind of thing. And man, I don't have it in here, but I can still remember because I was just talking about it the other day. My first AA meeting, what I wrote down or what I heard anyways was become a man, become a good man. And I think about today going like, yeah, I tell the truth. So therefore I'm finally a man. It took over 45 years to get to that point.
Yeah.
And then finally, from the professional lens, the spiritual lens, I double up or whatever between that mental win and the spiritual win, because, for me, it's very focused in my spirituality. But the best thing now for me is incorporating prayer and meditation, which was not a thing, 2 years ago. It absolutely was not. I was saying like the serenity prayer, and has God grant me the serenity, So to there, that's how it started. But today it's there's so much to it. It's 5 minutes, I have a 5-minute morning reset. It's free 99. So don't worry, everybody. I think you can afford it out there. And it basically takes you through the morning routine that's allowed me to just continue to, I call it putting the armor of God on every morning, kind of thing. But it takes you through just that 5-minute morning meditation and reset. So you don't have the catastrophic explosion before 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., whenever your day is starting, like you can get off on that right foot. Because I don't get out of bed like until I go through my gratitude, basically the 10 things that I'm grateful for, which is pretty easy. Like you can look around right now. Obviously I got electricity. I got a roof over my head. 2+ years ago, I sent a picture to a guy. Well, no, 2 years ago. I was sleeping in my maintenance room. So for those of you that don't come out in a maintenance room in the rest of the world, it's a furnace room, or it's where your HVAC system's at. In Minnesota, it happens to be in your basement. And that's where I was living. I had a 5,000 square foot house. I don't know, 5 or 6 bedrooms, and I'm sleeping in the maintenance room, so that if that tells you how bad I had, ruined things around me or messed up my life.
Yeah.
But I was okay with it because I took a picture of it, sent it to my buddy, and he responds just like this. Hey, Ryan, looks pretty good to me. You're warm, dry, and safe. And I'm like, dude, I am, because I've been plenty
Yeah.
of times on the side of a mountain in Afghanistan.
Mhm.
Certainly not warm, certainly not dry, and certainly not safe.
Sure, not safe. Yeah.
And you know what? And he was right. And it's a mantra I think of all the time. I mean, I've carried that for years of, when someone's losing their cool, you got a boss that's like flipping out. We're not making the quarter. And it's like the third day of the quarter, right? It's like, we got 87 more days there, bud, like lighten up, Francis. And I'd always be like, it's a pretty good day. No one's shooting at us and blowing us up, right? And so it's all about getting back to perspective. Can we shift the angle of where we're seeing how life's taken us and just be okay with it? Be grateful for, like, all of us can be grateful for what we currently have. So therefore we can have more than when we currently have. But if we're ungrateful, we're negative, we're toxic. Do you think we're going to ever get more? Why would we ever get more if we can't appreciate what we currently have?
That's right. That's right. Wow. That is so powerful and so much more. I really want to add on to that. And I'm looking at the time like, man, where did the time go?
You just burned through like an hour.
Yeah. So where can people, because you mentioned your books, where can people find your books? Where can people follow you, get more information about you, your journey? And also you mentioned the daily meditation. Where can people find that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the central hub is ourprotectordevelopment.com. That'll have everything under the sun. I think if you go from the top menu, it is the 5-minute morning reset and a link to take you to the course and coaching that we've developed. There's an 11 module course and coaching practices, depending on how fast you want to go. If you want to go at your own pace, I think you could probably, it took me 18 months when we built the course. So you could probably 6 months. You could probably, be okay. 6 months of it. You do the group coaching, I think you could probably crank her down to, 120 days. And we do some one-on-one work, 90 days or less. Like, you'll be living your best life that you could ever fathom. Awesome. We've seen it with guys that have been our case studies. It's pretty impressive where they're at today. We got a guy that we've been working together in December to be coming up on a year, and we didn't have the course built. Like, he was kind of like, these are the things I'm doing. And to see him, coming up on a year, basically now implementing the full course and everything, the last X, that's unreal. It's like 100X kind of thing. But the course is there. Links to the books, basically anywhere.com out there, you'd buy a book. So Amazon, we got the 3 books that are currently out now. The Living Truth that just came out, co-authored a book with Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and 11 other amazing people. We just hit bestseller, I think last week, if it was. So super, super excited that, say I never thought that would, I was like, hey, I can write a book, kind of thing. Cool. I guess, but that was never, but working with Jack was unreal. He's the GOAT for sure when it comes to authorship. And co-host, Our Healer, Our Protector. We always like to send folks to YouTube, since we, do just like you, a video podcast, but it's also on any of the Amazon, Apple Podcast, all that kind of stuff. And that's co-hosted with Lisa Sanders. She's a nurse of 24 years here in Minneapolis. And we both, gone through divorce, both have adult children. And we just talk about what it's like, unfortunately, to go through that valley, but know that there is faith, hope, and love on the other side of it. And you can, her tagline, not mine, because she's a coach and a speaker as well, but to get unstuck, don't live your midlife stuck at the end of the day. Awesome. And how you transition out of that. But yeah, definitely, I guess I always forget about the social media because I wasn't a social media guy. Right. But Ryan T. Reichert on any of the platforms, or I always say my old first email account, which plays like a great personalized license plate. It's a Army RT 1978. It's a handle out there too that I think that still exists for social media. So yeah, thank you, Russ, so much. It's been an amazing hour. Just can't even believe an hour on by that fast with the man.
It did. But I got one thing. We're going to go into the last word.
And now, the last word.
What would you tell men about redemption?
I like to say today, do you believe in miracles? And I would say, yes, I do. But yeah, redemption is one of those things that, how do we put it? Just like any good thing, it takes time. And you got to have that faith, hope, and love. And as men, it's okay to cry. I mean, like I remember my youngest daughter, this is go back in time and space in Hawaii. I think it was Christmas of 2015, and we had put to sleep. We had a 12-year-old Shar-Pei, and Kona, he'd walk, fall over. It was just time. And I can remember, putting him to sleep, and Annabelle, at this point, she was probably, 7 years old. And she's like, Dad, I don't understand. Like you said, you love Kona, but you didn't cry. And I remember crying. And I remember there's a picture out there. My eyes are all red, but maybe the tears just didn't come out.
Didn't cry. Yeah.
They didn't come out. And for men out there, like you want to truly be redeemed, you put the work in every day, especially if you have children, to know that there's no greater gift than to be able to feel again.
Yeah.
And to actually have those tears come out. The relationship that I have today with my girls, I never thought I'd get back. And this past Sunday, we went to church together. We came home. I made them, I don't know what do you call it, drunch. I mean, I think it was after the noon hour, so I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Anywho, doesn't matter. And they were grateful. They're like, this was a great, meal. We watched Daddy's Home. I guess I got a Will Ferrell thing going on here with some movies, but and it was so cool, like because I was cleaning up the kitchen, I looked over and they were sleeping on the couch, kind of thing. And you want to talk about redemption? That's redemption. So it's okay to cry. I'm not ashamed to cry anymore because, pardon the expression, I know the good Lord knows that I'm a badass motherfucker because I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of.
Yeah. And
don't worry, those demons are still inside there, kind of thing. And you just got to be strong enough to put the work in every day to want to be a man, Peter Pan, tell the truth. You don't need to grow up, kind of thing, but you need to be honest with yourself and everybody around you to know that the things you want in life are always on the other side of the hard that we just don't want to do. And 99% of the time I've found out today, it's like, let's look in the mirror and just be honest, and everything falls into line after that. So yeah, redemption is possible. And I know that I know a lot of guys today that have put the work in and have seen it. So it's real. You can taste it, touch it, smell it. And I can't thank you enough, Russ.
Oh man. Well, this has been tremendous. Very powerful episode. Learned a lot. I tell the story of Rome wasn't built in a day, but it still got built.
That's right.
Everything takes time, and it's not always on your time, but it will happen.
Absolutely.
One day at a time, man. Space Nation. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this special bonus episode. Ryan, thank you so much for being part of the show. Thank you for your service as well. And man, we're gonna open the door for you to say, come back and join us again, because we're gonna continue this conversation. And matter of fact, even off time, I mean, we're just gonna have to stay in touch. And
thank you, Russ. Thank Les so much. Y'all have just amazing holidays. And I know we're going to be in touch because I know when I see him align the stars, how it works, brothers from other mothers, and it's just one big happy family.
And we need a picture of the golden doodle, because I've been seeing a sign out there outside my neighborhood that there's some golden doodles for sale, and I keep showing it to my wife. She doesn't want it, and I want to show her how cute these dogs are, that I want one. I need to have this in my life.
Yeah,
so we need a
May's the
picture.
best. I love her,
Yeah.
and just like everybody's children, she's the cutest. I got it. Your
Yes.
kids are the cutest. I get it. But yeah, we'll definitely send you some pics, and you'll see how cute she is.
Awesome. Manspace Nation, until next time, we will wrap it up with another episode of the Manspace Podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Manspace.
Whichever platform you listen to us on, make sure you subscribe and don't miss a show.
Remember to keep up with all the Manspace updates on our website, themanspacepodcast.com.
And you can follow us on Instagram at ManspaceNat1.
Until next time, Manspace Nation, he's Les, I am Russ, and we are out
Out of here.